Welcome to part 2 of the LangChain tool calling series of videos. In part 1 we went through this file basics01.js, which was a very basic setup. We imported a few libraries, we instantiated an LLM model. This is using a Llama and the Llama 3.1 from Meta model, and we successfully got a response back from our model using the invoke method. Now I'm going to continue on the second step. So here's where we left off in step 1. I have removed all the comments. Everything remains the same, just remove the comments. And now we're going to go through the setup of our tool calling application. Now the tool calling has like a few steps that we have to go through in order to set up what LangChain calls like tool calling. So in the first step we have to define our functions. So the whole idea is that we have the LLM decide whether it needs to call a function in order to get back some result. And so the first step is to actually decide what functions we need to provide to our LLMs, and of course define these functions. For this example, I'm just going to be using these two very basic functions which accept two arguments and then provide the sum. The first one is just adding these two numbers together, and the second one is just multiplying two numbers. And in the terminology, in the LangChain terminology, a tool is just an association between a function and its schema. So we will see how we can combine a function and a function schema in order to get what LangChain calls a tool. So a tool is not just a function, a simple JavaScript function. It is a function plus a schema. So defining the function is pretty simple. It's just ordinary JavaScript. Defining the schema is done through two ways. One of them is to use a simple JSON syntax, or the other preferred way is to use the Zod library. So the Zod library allows us to define a schema, to declare a schema using this very simple like Zod syntax. In the first case, I'm defining the schema for the arguments for the first function. So as you can see, the first function accepts an object with two properties. So this is an object and it contains two properties A and B, both of which have to be of type number. We're doing arithmetic operations here, so I need these two parameters to be numbers. Exactly the same schema is applied to the multiply function, two properties of the object that is being destructured here, A and B, and they're of type number. So this is like how you prepare your tools. Define the functions in plain JavaScript form, and then decide on the schema of the arguments of this function. So we have defined the schemas. We are saving them into variables, and now I'm going to be to actually create the tool. I'm using the tool helper method from the LangChain library. And let me go here. So now I'm going to combine the function and its schema to actually create a tool. So remember here, a tool is an association between a function and its schema. So this is what the tool is actually doing. It's saying, give me the function and give me the schema with some extra information in here, and I will create a special tool that the LLM can use. So the first argument to the tool method is the function reference, the add here. There are a couple of properties that we have to include. The first is the name of the function. Now I'm using a very simple name here, add, but in this point you have to pay attention that most of the times we need to provide a more descriptive short name for the function. So like something like add two numbers. In this case, I'm using for this example a simple add. Next, we have the schema property, which accepts a Zod schema. So I'm passing this object here, and then there's a description. So the descriptions are even more important than the name. They should describe in much detail exactly what this tool is doing, what it's producing, what it's accepting as inputs, and so forth. Also, in this case, I'm using a very simple description. Most of the times we need to provide a more detailed description, something like add two numbers A and B together to produce a sum, the sum of these two numbers, and maybe even provide some more details. Of course, depending on the tool, you'll elaborate a little bit more. Create a tool based on the add function and its schema. I'm doing exactly the same thing for the multiply. I'm creating a tool called multiply tool. I'm passing the multiply function, reference to this function. The name is multiply, the description is multiplies A and B, and the schema, of course, is the schema that I defined here using Zod. So I have my tools. I mixed, or I combined the functions and their schema with some metadata, and I have my two tools. And then I pack my tools in a simple array. So I move all these tools, these two tools, together in an array called tools, so that I can pass it on to my LLM. So we are ready. So the first part, application, is defining the functions and the tools. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is something very simple. In this case, I'm just going to test my function, my simple JavaScript function. So I'm going to say, I'm going to run, and I'm just here testing that given two parameters in these two functions, I'm getting the result that I expect. This is pretty simple. It's just plain JavaScript that produces the output. So that's it for our first, let's say, part on setting up the tool calling. I will see you in the next video.